Well, the round of 16 is done, and we are now down to 8 teams in the Champions League for the quarterfinals. It'll be PSG versus Liverpool, Real Madrid versus Bayern Munich, Barcelona versus Atletico Madrid, and Sporting CP versus Arsenal. Now, there are lots of brackets that have Arsenal making it all the way to the end. I know Jeff has Arsenal winning it all. And when you take a look at the shocker. Did you have Arsenal?
No.
Okay, so one Arsenal, one not. But when you take a look at the favorites, Arsenal are the favorites at plus 220. Can you guys see there's JayDee in the way? No, we're good. Plus 220, followed by Bayern, Barca, PSG, Real Madrid, and Liverpool, then being the favorites that follow afterwards. You didn't agree yesterday that Arsenal should be favorites to win right now in the odds.
I never have.
Tony,
I never have.
Tony, what do you think?
No, I don't agree. Look, I think the two most consistent teams in Europe are Arsenal and Bayern Munich the entire season. I'm going to go with what I said at the beginning of Champions League before we played one match here, that I thought Bayern was going to win Champions League this year. So I would put them slightly ahead. If Arsenal go on and win it, it's been a magical season so far, right? I still think personally that the Premier League is the priority and that this will slip away somewhere. I think they go through against Sporting. But if you're asking me, do I think they're the favorite to win? No, because I still think PSG, we saw last year at this time, they start to turn the heat up a little bit. I still think Barcelona's going to have something to say. But I'm going to go with what I said right at the beginning. I think Bayern Munich wins it.
Now, you said that you don't agree that they should be the favorites either, Jeff.
No, I don't. I think they are, I agree with Tony that they are the two most consistent teams in the Champions League. But of those two, Bayern Munich are the more consistent of those two. Look at Bayern Munich in the Premier League, in the Bundesliga, and look at their dominance there. So they can take their foot off the gas. Arsenal have to fight Man City all the way. It's a tougher Premier League than it is a Bundesliga. Bayern Munich have got players coming back in from injury as well. Yeah, look, I've tipped Arsenal, and obviously I want Arsenal to win, but I think Bayern Munich are the major threat. And I also don't have Real Madrid as far out in the odds either.
JayDee is looking at me. I was going to move on, but he gave me a little smirk. What do you want to add in here?
No, I just think that this team is incredible. I think they've proved their consistency this year. I think the lack of games that Arsenal in doing that. But I do believe that Bayern and probably Real Madrid in the final third are just so clinical. The edge that they have in the final third, especially with their number 9s, is really going to be the difference in this competition. And you need a match winner. And unfortunately, I see a lot of great players putting themselves in great situations, but I don't see an individual match winner like I see in the other opposition that's around them.
All right, well, let's take a look at the panic meter. Tony, you're taking this one for Arsenal. The panic meter on them advancing to the UCL Semifinals, so them getting past Sporting.
Getting past Sporting. Okay, so I wouldn't go blowout, nor would I go stroll. I would say cooking. Is where I'm at. Toughest, no, I'd stay out of this part of it. I would go cooking for Arsenal to get past Sporting. Now, keep in mind, Sporting, a very organized side. Right, we've seen them now through this competition. I feel in general, and I say this every year, there's always a Portuguese side before they sell their players, right, to the rest of Europe. That is a team that surprises us, right? We're always going. Sporting's that team, but they've been doing this for a couple of years now, going back to Ruben Amorim, and I know Ruben Amorim has a different picture painted right now of himself, but his Sporting sides were good, right? Ask Man City, but that's where I'm going, cooking.
All right, you guys agree with that?
I actually think
more of a blowout.
I actually think it's going to be a tougher test. I actually think it's going to be a really difficult game. I think Sporting are a team that a lot of people have kind of downplayed this year, but their excellence, especially in the final third, they could really hurt Arsenal, especially going away. So how they manage Portugal, especially Lisbon, is going to be super critical for them. But I do think it's going to be. I mean, the cooking is good, but I do think it's going to be a really tough test to them. Especially in Portugal.
All right, well, we're going to do a panic meter with Barcelona. But first, as we look at the other matchups that we're going to have in the quarterfinals, JayDee, you take this one. Barcelona taking on Atletico Madrid. Ooh. When you take a look at the managers, before we do the panic meter, take a look at the managers.
Okay.
Hansi Flick, Diego Simeone. Who do you think is under more pressure coming into these quarterfinal matches?
Diego Simeone. And purely because even though Hansi Flick will be disappointed in what they weren't able to do last year, because he probably would have the quadruple in his mind. I think about this is someone who's won 6 trophies in a season. So the standard that he kind of sets for himself is ridiculous. But because this is what's missing from his cabinet, and I do believe that he's had more years as the leader of Atleti than than what's coming in the future. Whenever he decides to leave, it's really up to him. But I do think it's a lot closer than we've probably given ourselves credence for. And he knows this is the one that's eluded him. It gets harder and harder. I think there's been previous years where I've looked at Atleti teams and thought that they could have done better in this competition. And it doesn't get any easier when you look at the road to their final this year. But they do have the quality, but I do believe that they're under more pressure to succeed.
They just talked about giving Cholo Simeone a lifetime contract, right? Like they've discussed this, right? And I'm looking at Hansi Flick at a Barcelona that over the years has not been afraid to change managers. Right now, Hansi Flick has done a great job. He has said that this is going to be his last club that he's going to coach at. I think Barcelona, because they're the favorite, Hansi Flick might be the guy under a little bit more pressure after what happened last year, getting so close. I always feel like Atletico Madrid, they're like the team that's always chasing the other two, right?
I think he's under more pressure to win this tie, but not necessarily to win the Champions League.
Correct.
I think he's under more pressure to win this from the Barca fans, although Barca fans won't turn on him if they don't win the Champions League. I think it's this particular time. Ultimately, I don't think overall Atleti have enough to win the Champions League. I know he's a master tactician and he can wrestle teams like a python, but I just don't think they have enough in their locker as such. It's another great tie, though. It's an intriguing tie.
2 finals, no trophies. That's heartbreaking.
I'm taking a look at Atleti's upcoming schedule. They play Real Madrid next, then is Barca, then is Barca again. Oof. It is tough for them coming up, definitely.
I feel like they had the same thing at the end of last season. Do you remember when they
had
were...
the chance for 3 trophies
They were really
tight,
tight, and in 1 month everything just disappeared. So how much they took from that experience last year and can make them better this year is really going to pay credence to whether or not how their approach is going to be in this tie. But from a mental perspective, I know we were talking about mental edge earlier. We've beaten this team over 2 legs already this year. So why can't we do it again? That really has to be the team talk. We've demonstrated we're better than this team over 2 legs, home and away. Let's go and repeat it.
Yeah,
OK, I'm in the other camp. I'm saying they beat us over 2 legs, but they only squeaked past, and we won't make the mistakes we did in the first leg.
I think the coach's speech is easier for Hansi Flick, right? Because it's hard to beat teams 3 times, right? And we talk all the time. If I'm Hansi Flick, I'm saying, guys, look what they did to us. Knocked us out of Copa del Rey. Won 4-0 in the Metropolitano. Like, that's a fiery type of speech.
Yeah, excuse me. Also, after all that, they also have Sevilla and then Barcelona again. So they actually play, Atleti and Barca go head-to-head before they even play in Champions League. So let's take a look at the panic meter for Barcelona specifically on their chances to advance past Atleti.
If I could have somewhere in between tough tests and practice PKs, because I do think it will be a little bit tighter than people are giving it credit for, I would say somewhere around there. Just purely because I do think that the emotional aspects will play a role, and also the experience. And I do wonder if some of the demons from last year will start to creep back into their minds because of the inexperience. It's got nothing to do with Barcelona's ability. Barcelona as a starting 11 are phenomenal. But when you get to this stage of the Champions League, it is more of a mental test than it ever is a physical one. And I just wonder whether or not they can handle the mental edge over both games.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to another match. Let's move on to PSG Liverpool. The other one with Real Madrid, Man City. We're going to talk about that later. But PSG versus Liverpool, let's look at this one. Jeff, do you think that PSG has the best attack in football right now, at the moment?
I mean, when you look at that, it is scary. I absolutely love this guy. Yeah, everything about him. The way he plays is... You don't normally see a player who has that level of skill be so aggressive. He is so aggressive. In another life, he could have been a centre-half. His physicality is extraordinary. And then just look, you're picking 4 there. Any of those 3 are sensational. They've got so much in their locker. Are they finally clicking into gear? Are they the team of... We've been waiting and waiting and waiting. We know they made a late run last year. This year, it's been a late run. Are they what they were last season? I don't think so just yet, but the standards they set was something extraordinary. I was at that final. I have never, ever, in all my decades of watching football, seen a complete and utter demolition of a more than decent team with such excellence. Can they get there? I honestly don't think it's possible, because that was a once-in-a-lifetime performance. but they're a very, very good side. A very good side.
And just to mention, Bradley Barcola, as we mentioned earlier in headlines, he's out right now. Ankle injury, I think, correct? So he'll be out for a little bit of time. So, panic meter. Geoff, you take this one. Panic meter on PSG being able to get past Liverpool.
Well, they squeaked past them last season on penalties, and that was at Anfield. Yeah, which makes me... I'm going to borrow JD's cheat code. I'm going to go here, between there and there. I think it's... Anfield is a special place.
Yeah.
Anfield is a special place. No, it's a bit too far.
No, you got to commit to one or the other. You can't sit on the line.
Jeff, commit to something.
Jamie, Jamie Carragher yesterday said 60-40 for PSG.
I'm going tough. If I've got to split it, I'm going tough test.
You got to pick one.
Tough test.
You guys agree with this one?
Yeah, it's an extremely tough test. Again, like I said about the Liverpool versus Galatasaray, whoever manages the away game better will probably go through. And so if PSG go and handle the expectations, the energy, and obviously what an Anfield Champions League night is like, and they come out of that with an incredible result, then they'll probably progress. And that's the same to be said about Liverpool and the Parc de France, because both of those two atmospheres are just phenomenal. They're two of my favourite atmospheres I've ever stood on the sideline and just enjoyed, because their fans are in there so early. You get genuine goosebumps when you're in those type of arenas because of how much it means to the people. And then the football on show is just the icing on the cake.
Thanks for watching this video from Morning Footy. For all news and insights regarding leagues around the world like EFL, Serie, and all UEFA competitions, both men's and women's, don't forget to sign up for Paramount+.